that they projected was showing us how there was only going to be one government on the planet Earth. They'll be living on some sort of artificial island that's going to be floating in the middle of a dark, black, dirty sea.
Dobrodošli na Balkan UFO kanali, dobrodošli u nevjerojatnu priču tadašnjeg mladića po imenu Amaury Riviere koji 1988. godine u Puerto Riku doživio jedan naizgled potpuno nevjerojatan slučaj za razliku od mnogih priča koje su ostale samo to, obične priče. Ovaj čovjek nam je nakon svog susreta ostavio nevjerojatne fizičke dokaze i to u obliku više fotografija svog susreta. Nešto što se jako rijetko događa u svijetu ufologije. A kakve su to fotografije? Jedne od najboljih koje ste ikada vidjeli na Balkan UFO kanalu. Često me ljudi pitaju koji ti je najbolji slučaj, koji bi slučaj izdvojio i pokazao najvećem skeptiku koji bi možda nakon toga promijenio mišljenje. Kao prvo, tvrdokornim skepticima ništa neće promijeniti mišljenje, osim možda osobnog susreta sa nečim nadnaravnim. A kao drugo, nemam takav omiljeni slučaj i to iz razloga jer je konkurencija jednostavno prejaka. Previše ih je da bi izdvojio samo jedan, previše ih je da ih izdvojim i 10 komada, ali kada bi imao svoju listu od 100 najboljih slučajeva svih vremena, današnja priča bi bez ikakvog razmišljanja upala na ovu listu. I za danas sam spremio malo drugačiji video kojeg ću podijeliti u više cjelina i minimalno 2 dijela, možda i 3 ako to stvarno budete željeli. Videi na koji nećete morati čekati cijeli tjedan, nego bi odmah sutra ili najkasnije prekosutra nastavili sa drugim dijelom. Razlog zašto ću ovu priču podijeliti na više dijelova je taj što ćemo danas govoriti o osnovnim stvarima. Imat ćete priliku u kraćem intervjuu osobno čuti ovog čovjeka i njegovu osnovnu priču, ali čućete i novinare i istraživače koji su radili na ovom slučaju, ali i ljudi koji su detaljno analizirali fantastične fotografije koje ovaj čovjek objavio za javnost. Taj video materijal je u trajanju 13 do 14 minuta, ovisno o mom skraćivanju najbitnijeg. I znači danas ćete čuti njegovu osnovnu priču i što se točno dogodilo. Čućete njegove opise kako to izgleda kada dođe CIA na vaša vrata koja želi da im predate vaše fotografije. Čućete i novinare ufologe koji su analizirali cijelu priču, ali njegove fotografije za koje se ustanovilo da su bez greške. To je s drugim riječima da su stvarne. A u drugom dijelu sam imao u planu u detalje govoriti o projekcijama koji su mu prikazivali, njegovom susretu sa 2 vrste bića, jer u detalje znamo gdje su ga točno odveli. U detalje znamo odakle su ta bića došla i kakve su i namjere, a znamo i njihova imena i ime njihovog planeta. I već u današnjem videu ćete dobiti naznake tko su mala bića, tankih ruku i velikih glava sa crnim očima. Jako zanimljive informacije. Njegova priča kreće klasičnim načinom kao i mnoge druge priče o kojima smo govorili na ovom kanalu, poput SVIJETA incidenta. Krećući se sa svojim automobilom, oko ovog čovjeka i njegovog automobila se iznenada stvorila gusta magla. Gusta magla koju je po prvi put vidio neljudska bića. Ta bića su ga onesvijestila te zajedno s autom odvela na nepoznato mjesto na kojem se nalazilo još 14 drugih ljudi. Ljudi koji su također sa razlogom oteti, nakon čega su ovoj skupini ljudi počeli prikazivati različite i ultrarealistične holografske projekcije o budućnosti koja čeka samo čovječanstvo. Poslušajte osnovne informacije i osobno ovog čovjeka o njegovom prvom intervjuu koji je dao nekoliko godina nakon samog događaja.
Hello, my name is Amaury Rivera. I live in Puerto Rico, and back in 1988 I was working in a nightclub, and there was a musical group there. One of my cousins wanted me to photograph the musical group, and she loaned me a camera with some film. On my way back home, I encountered 2 small beings, 2 small strange men, which I didn't think were men from outer space. And they took me somewhere where there were other people besides myself, other human people like from Puerto Rico, I guess. From here, another human being showed up. He claimed to be from a distant planet. He was dressed in black. He had a dark skin, but he was not a Negro. He had a long black hair up to the shoulders, and he spoke to us with the mouth, verbally, and no telepathic speaking. He showed us various projections, which looked very real, the projections, and he informed us about a whole bunch of things that are even still incredible to me. Then they returned me to...
What did this holographic projection show?
The holographs were mainly, the first one that I can remember was like a short trip through space. We saw where he came from, where he's said to be from. We saw his people, we saw the houses that they use. And the second one was about a meteor or a rock falling to Earth in the near future, which is going to cause a lot of havoc in the world. This would fall, it's going to fall in very near the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, and those other small islands, but it's going to affect the whole world, not just Puerto Rico. The last one is that they projected was showing us how there was only going to be one government on the planet Earth. They'll be living on some sort of artificial island that's going to be floating in the middle of a dark, black, dirty sea.
Ne znam koliko ste mogli primijetiti u samom intervjuu, ali ovaj čovjek je bio izrazito nervozan zbog same traume koju je doživio sa posljedicama koje su ga pratile godinama nakon ovog događaja. I ovaj njegov pogled na samo pitanje novinara o projekcijama puno govori o njegovom posttraumatskom stresu koji se javlja kod mnogih ljudi nakon ovakvih susreta. Jer ovom čovjeku su se navodno prikazivale projekcije koje su između ostalog prikazivale uništavanje njegovog rodnog kraja u Puerto Riku, to jest čitavog otoka, što je za kasniju posljedicu imalo i propadanje čitavog planeta te ultimativno propast ljudske civilizacije u bliskoj budućnosti. Njegovom mentalnom stanju nije pomogla baš ni CIA koja je pokazala veliku zainteresiranost za njegove fotografije koje ćete uskoro vidjeti.
Actually, Amaury Rivera was intimidated and pressured by government agents to hand over his pictures.
Well, a short time after the incident, three men showed up at my home in Puerto Rico, and one of them stood in their car downstairs. And they claimed to be from CIA. And they handed me two pieces of paper, which I was so nervous I couldn't really read, but I remember seeing the letter CIA, which is the intelligence agency from the United States, and they said that it would be easier and better for me if I handed them the photographs and the negatives, but they did not say, what photographs or what negatives. They didn't specify, and I just told them that I did not know what they were talking about. And they said it would be easier because we have an order to register your house, to look through your house. And I said, well, go ahead, be my guest and look. And they looked, but they couldn't find them because I had hid them very well.
Ovako to izgleda kad imate ultimativne dokaze u obliku fotografija koje interesiraju jednu od zloglasnih obavještajnih agencija koje ćemo u početku na jedan kulturan način pristupiti, ali svejedno indirektno priprijetiti da im predate ono što oni žele. Što srećom po nas ovaj čovjek nije napravio, nego je sakrio fotoaparat i film, te kasnije se objavio za javnost. Što su kasnije detaljno ispratili novinari i istraživači poput Jorge Martina.
Martin has carefully investigated this case.
Rivera's case is, to me, is a very special one and a very important one because in Amaury's case, he was abducted and he was taken away by aliens. One of them was human-like and two small creatures that they explained to him were some type of genetical or biological organic android that they made to do some chores outside so they don't have to risk themselves in our environment. That's what they explained to him, the so-called human alien that he saw in the craft. And it's important also because of the evidences that he has on the case, because when he was released, he had a camera with him and he was able to take pictures of the object that apparently had abducted him, the craft, flying saucer type, and also some jet fighters from the United States, excuse me, F-14 again, In most of these cases in the island, F-14s are involved with these situations of chasing and harassment and checking on these objects when they are seen in the different areas of the island. And he was able to get them in those pictures together. So this clearly, when you see those photographs, it's obvious that the government has been lying for many years, because there's the UFO there, and there's also the jet fighters dealing with the situation, which they denied for more than 4 years. It's there.
Were you able to locate any other witnesses?
That's what I was going to explain at this moment, Michael. The Amoris case is also very important because I have several people who apparently had been contacted by the same alien that abducted Amori and the small ones that were with him in a separate fashion. They have nothing to do with Amori's incident. This being, this human-like alien, is contacting people all around the area of the southwest of Puerto Rico. I have people from the town of Yauco who seem to have been contacted by this man. I have this fisherman, Andres Maldonado, who I got in contact with Amori because he told me several things Amori had told no one before, only I knew them, about the name of the alien and all the details that he was using to check on the people who really may have been in contact with the same being the night he was abducted, because there were about 14 other people there in the craft that night. And when Maldonado told me all this information that he couldn't know because he was not involved with the Morris case, I got them together. And at this moment I have about 3 different people who seem to have been in contact with the same alien. So they are doing something, and they are getting in contact with more and more people and preparing people for something. And this is very important because all this corroborates Amori's incident also.
Mr. Martin, are there any official statements regarding the incidents in Puerto Rico?
As a matter of fact, due to the situation happening in the southwest of Puerto Rico, it's all around the island, but in the southwest it's more obvious, more visible because of the many incidents that are happening there constantly. And it's a heavily populated area. The police and the civil defense and the authorities began a very intensive disinformation program, trying to ridicule and to make everything seen as a lie, as fabrication by those people who were informing all of this. But fortunately, after they began doing this, especially the Civil Defense Agency in Puerto Rico, a source of ours gave us this letter that was sent secretly by the State Director of the Civil Defense Agency of Puerto Rico, Colonel Jose M. Noya, in which he states clearly that the situation is real, that they are keeping an eye on the situation and investigating everything, just to be sure that what is happening and these sightings and this incident with UFOs and USOs, unknown submerged objects also, because they come out from the sea and into the sea. Many people have seen this happen there. It's not a threat to the security of the people of Puerto Rico on the Puerto Rican territory. As you know, something that doesn't exist can be a threat to anyone. There's also another thing. He says here that several agencies of Puerto Rico are involved in the investigation secretly, the military, the Radio Observatory of Arecibo, and they have always denied for many years that they had anything to do whatever with the UFO situation, and it's stated here by him that they do have something to do and they are checking on the situation. And Mr. Noya, these words written by him are very important because he's the liaison between the Puerto Rico National Guard Army and the Defense Intelligence Agency. He's their man in Puerto Rico.
Da je ovo sve ostalo na klasičnoj priči jednog čovjeka koja je jako slična pričama nekih drugih ljudi koji ste više puta čuli na Balkan UFO kanalu, gdje nekima od vas možda čak postalo i dosadno slušati ovakve priče, ja bi svejedno objavio video o ovakvoj priči. Jednoj od mnogih. To je iz razloga zato jer mi je zanimljiva. To bi sve ostalo kao jedna jako zanimljiva priča. Ali, razlog zašto je ovo puno više od obične priče o kojoj možete, ali ne morate vjerovati, je ono što se dogodilo nakon njegove otmice, kada su ga bića zajedno s automobilom pustila na drugom mjestu. Smušen nakon same otmice dok još dolazio sebi, a Mauri Riviera izlazi iz auta nakon što je čuo mlažnjake kako lete na nebu. Te je na samom nebu kristalno čisto vidio ogroman leteći disk oko kojeg su kružila 3 američka vojna aviona F-14. Kolika je šansa da se u tom trenutku nađe čovjek koji u svojim rukama ima fotoaparat? Jako mala. Ali upravo to se dogodilo.
Then this man returned me to my car again and left me somewhere different from where the whole ordeal had started. Apparently they took me with car and all. After this, at this given time, I heard some jets in the sky, and I still had my cousin's camera, and I took the pictures, 4 of which I'm making public nowadays.
So the jets followed the UFO?
Yes, it was. They seemed to be surveilling it. I only got to capture just one of the jets in the photograph, but there were 3 of them. Or maybe I got in one of the photos one, and in the second or third I got one of the other ones, because they would go around it very far away, and while this one was closer, and turn, very far, very far. And by the time this one was coming back, another one was turning over there. There was always one or the other close to the object, to the UFO.
Ako se sjećate, nedavno smo govorili o jako pouzdanim izvorima iz američke vojske koji kažu da se njihovi piloti svakodnevno susreću s NLO-ima. S NLO-ima koji često lete na jako malim udaljenostima od njihovih aviona. Te da američka vojska ima kristalno čiste fotografije i videomaterijal od više stotina sati na kojima su kristalno jasno snimljeni takvi objekti. Naravno, takav videomaterijal nije došao do nas dolaze ovakve stvari. Ali zahvaljujući ljudima poput Amaury Riviere koji je fotografirao takav bliski susret, mi danas imamo dokaze u obliku kristalno čistih fotografija koja ne dolaze od vojske nego od civila iz Puerto Rika, i to iz 1988. godine. Koliko se to rijetko događa. Uz ove fotografije koje ćete sad vidjeti, postoji još samo jedan jedini slučaj u povijesti ufologije kada su civili uspjeli fotografirati NLO. I to sa fotografijom na kojoj se uz NLO nalazi vojni avion koji ga proganja i prati. Toliko su rijetke fotografije koje ćete upravo vidjeti. I fotografije koje izgledaju ovako. Ovo se na engleskom jeziku zove smoking gun dokaz, to jest nepobitan dokaz da NLO i ne samo da postoje, kao što mi to znamo danas, nego da američka vojska, ali mnoge druge vojske diljem svijeta odavno znaju za njih te sudjeluju i u njihovom najčešće bezuspješnom lovu. I nakon nekoliko minuta proganjanja ovog letećeg diska koji se minimalno kretao, ova letjelica, kako se to obično događa nakon početne nezainteresiranosti za ljudske avione, vertikalno i ogromnom brzinom, gotovo treptaj oka, nestala na nebu. Na internetu je nemoguće pronaći druge ovakve fotografije ili video za koji pouzdano znamo da je stvaran. I video i fotografije koje prikazuju ovakav lov i presretanje. Ali u ovom slučaju imate prilike, i to u barem 2 fotografije, poprilično i kristalno čisto, vidjeti američki F-14 avion i leteći disk koji je bio najmanje 30 metara u promjeru u odnosu na američke avione koji su bili 19 metara dužine. Ove fotografije što gledate su jedni od najboljih vizualnih dokaza snimljenih u povijesti. To od strane civila koji je svjedočio ovom događaju. S obzirom na njegovu nevjerojatnu priču koja stoji iza ovakvog letećeg diska i bića koja se nalaze u njemu, postoji li sumnja u autentičnost fotografije, jer ako je netko izmislio ovakvu priču, možda i na neki način stvorio ovakve fotografije, ne bi li na takav način fabricirao dokaze koji mu daju na vjerodostojnosti. Evo što stručnjaci kažu na to.
You investigated the Rivera case, Colonel Stevens. What was your impression?
Well, of course, Jorge Martin took me to meet Jorge Rivera, Amaury Rivera, shortly after I got there with the Mexican team to study some phenomena in Puerto Rico. And when I first met a Maori, he was very reluctant to describe his case because it still frightened him to think about it. And it took some time before we could develop enough confidence where he was comfortable talking to us about the case. But he would still tremble when he thought about it. He would turn pale. He'd become weak. He was frightened. But he has now reviewed the details and the points in sufficient length and depth that he can face the experience without the trauma, which he has learned to do. And today, or yesterday, we saw for the first time that he is able to manage his emotions well enough to describe that contact in considerable detail.
You carefully analyzed the Rivera photographs.
We took the pictures, yes. We took the pictures taken by Amaury Rivera to a NASA consultant facility in Scottsdale, where we put them through a computer analysis using latest state-of-the-art equipment. And we found that both the disc-shaped craft seen in the photographs and the aircraft are considerable distance from the camera, between 3 and 5 miles. We discovered that the jet fighter was moving and that the disc-shaped craft was moving relatively slow or not moving at all. We discovered that the ambient light conditions were correct in all respects. We were able to eliminate montages, paste-ups, reflections, models, all kinds of forms of technical manipulation of photographs, and we had to conclude that the pictures were real and that they were exactly as described by the witness when he took the photographs.
30 godina je jako dug period i ove fotografije su nebrojeno mnogo puta pregledane od strane jako velikog broja istraživača, gdje su doslovno svi, ali doslovno svi zaključili da nema nikakvih manipulacija ili bilo kakvih montaža. Što nas dovodi do činjenice da je ovaj čovjek zaista fotografirao jackpot ufologije. Ako su fotografije stvarne i fotografije koje su nastale nekoliko trenutaka nakon što ga ovaj NLO vratio na područje u Puerto Riku, što to govori o njegovoj priči? Da li je ona istinita? To je nešto što se ne može provjeriti na znanstveni način, ali ako je ova priča stvarno istinita, dobili smo odgovore na mnoge do tad nepoznate stvari. Dobili smo odgovore to u detalje, odakle su ova bića došla i kako izgleda njihov svijet. Dobili smo odgovore što žele od nas, koje barem ova skupina masovno tima i educira o našoj budućnosti. Dobili smo odgovore kako se zovu i u kakvom su odnosu sa malim bićima velike glava i očiju s kojima očigledno surađuju. Ali iako smo dobili mnoge odgovore, to ne znači da će nam se neki od ovih odgovora i svidjeti, jer neke stvari o kojima govori ovaj čovjek i našoj budućnosti su zaista sumorne. Ali o tome, i ako to želite u detalje, možemo govoriti u idućem videu za kojima već sad mogu reći i naslov. Tko su ljudi sa planeta K? Prije detaljne fantastične priče ovog čovjeka i njegovog zajedničkog susreta sa drugih 14 ljudi koji su došli na edukaciju kod ovakvih bića, bilo je nužno da čujete osnove same priče od strane Amaury Rivere, ali i ljudi koji su radili na ovom slučaju gdje smo i po prvi put u povijesti dobili ovakve nevjerojatne fotografije. A do tad, vi ste na Balkan UFO kanalu, mjesto gdje istina ponekad zvuči čudnije od fikcije. Vidimo se uskoro opet, to možda već sutra. Lijep pozdrav!